Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the suffering servant passage in the book of Isaiah, from chapters 40 through the beginning verses of chapter 56. And we're into the section where the Messiah, which was promised early on in the section, has his arrival is being talked about at length. We are introduced not only to him as a deliverer, but as a sacrifice, as a suffering servant. And he himself has spoken up already in the passage. In chapter 51, and let's remember, um, I, the children of Israel haven't gone into Babylonian captivity yet. In fact, if this is during the days of Hezekiah, they haven't even committed the sins for which they will go into Babylonian captivity yet. And so there has had to be an explanation for the immediate historical events that will be unfolding during their lifetime and the lifetimes of their children and grandchildren. But we're also being promised, they are also being promised that God will deliver them, not to lose faith, that God will continue to deliver them. And throughout, God has himself been saying, I am the one. I'm the one who created everything. I'm the one who moves nations. I'm the one who moves the universe. It's me. I'm the one who's given you every good gift. And this is being reemphasized in chapter 51. And in verse 9, God's past victories and past deliverances and his role as creator is being emphasized again as we are promised the great deliverance that God will bring. He's the one who's able to bring it because he always has. When we need a deliverance, bring that deliverance. Okay, so we're going to read chapter 51, verses 9 through 11 today. Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake as in the days of old, of the generations long ago. Was it not you who cut Rahab into pieces, who pierced the dragon? Was it not you who dried up the sea, the waters of the great deep, who made the depths of the sea a pathway for the redeemed to cross over? So the ransomed of the Lord will return and come with joyful shouting to Zion, and everlasting joy will be on their heads, and they will obtain gladness and joy, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. There's just so much in this passage that connects with so much else. Let's talk about the beginning. He says, awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. And not that God has to have a wake-up call, but it's placing this part of the prophecy in the moment when the deliverance from Babylonian captivity will come. And it thinks back to two events. One event is creation, and the other event is the crossing of the Red Sea. Now, let's talk about Rahab and the dragon. These are both names of the Babylonian slash Persian entity Tiamat, basically the Babylonian deity Tiamat. So Tiamat is often pictured as a sea creature, as a dragon, not necessarily the fire-breathing dragon that we think of, but some fantastical, massive, frightening sea creature who represents chaos and who represents the sea. And in Babylonian religion, creation happened when Marduk defeated Tiamat and conquered chaos and brought about order. Well, what Isaiah is saying, the prophet Isaiah is saying, is this: if anyone conquered chaos and brought about order, it's Yahweh. And there is a connection, almost a warped memory of what creation actually was. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and following, we start with God in the beginning, but also the deep, the abyss, right? And it's there, and the Spirit of God is hovering over it, and the Spirit of God acts upon it and says, "Let there be light," and there is light. And we start with God in creation and the abyss. So they're remembering in their cultural memory, in their religion that has become warped over the years from what was originally a true memory of what creation was like, to this abyss. The abyss that God worked upon ends up being, a sea creature, a sea monster that represents water, that represents chaos. And then Marduk, the great god, tames that and creates order and creates the dry land. Anyway, that was their creation story. All Isaiah is doing, and Rahab is not the Rahab the harlot that we know from the book of Judges, although that's where her name comes from, by the way. Rahab and the dragon, the monster, in other words, Rahab and the monster recalls creation, and God says, "I'm the one who created the order." And then, "Was it not you who dried up the sea, the waters of the deep, who made the depths of the sea a pathway for the redeemed to cross over?" Clearly, this is recalling the parting of the Red Sea and the Israelites crossing over. And so that's being envisioned, and they were crossing over to head to the Promised Land. And so now their return from Babylonian captivity is going to be like that. He's going to part the sea. He's going to remove the obstacles, and we're going to come back with everlasting joy and gladness, and our sorrow and sighing will flee away. There's a sense in which their sorrow and sighing over their captivity will flee away, but there's also a looking forward to the promise that we have at the end of the book of Revelation. There's no more sorrow, crying, or pain. God will say, "I make all things new," and then everything's better, and will stay better, and will never experience those difficulties again. It's not improbable that Isaiah is looking forward to that day of final judgment and redemption, because that's how he ends his book. That's how he ends the prophecy in Isaiah 66. We'll take a peek at that. We're not going to go that far in our study. But anyway, I think there's also an envisioning, a foreshadowing, maybe it's a better word, of the final bliss, the perfect bliss we're going to experience. Okay, so God himself will speak, and next time we'll pick up with verse 12. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.